Good afternoon, evening, whatever it is.
Evening.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
For some reason, my video isn't up. Are you seeing me?
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah. Huh. Let me.
You don't have
Try
like a
this
little
again.
blocker over your camera? do
Yeah,
you?
no, oh no, the camera's on here. I'm gonna leave and come back in. Hold on.
Councilmember Cuesta did email, didn't think he would be able to attend. He was on the road.
Okay.
So Sarah's the only one we're waiting for.
All right, Scott, are you back?
Yep, thanks.
I see you. There you are.
Sarah just emailed. She says she can't get into the meeting.
Oh, okay.
God, as you were walking away today, Michelle was saying, I think he had a haircut. And I was like, he's wearing a hat. So it's a very funny moment.
Well, I was helping my son outside with a project, and many years ago, I learned how painful it is to have a massive sunburn on top of your head. So,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty cautious about wearing a cap in the summer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or
Or whatever this is. I guess it's not even spring yet.
We'll see
For
a
however
couple
long
days.
this lasts.
Yeah.
So, all right, should we wait for Sarah or get started? It's 7:02.
I think, can you guys hear me?
And
Yes.
Oh.
I see you.
Okay, it worked.
We're all here? Okay, great. All right, it's 7:02. Call to order and roll call.
great. I'm Chair Guy Mason,
Present.
Vice Chair Scott Gilbert,
Present.
Bryn Dunning,
Present.
Helene Federici,
Present.
Sarah Harkness,
Present.
Marie Hoda,
Present.
Austin Stryker,
Present.
Andy Sakaris,
Present.
Amy Wilson.
Present.
We have Inglewood Schools Liaison Jen Hubbard.
Present.
Excused, we have City Council Member Cuesta. Staff, we have Director of Parks Rec, Library and Golf, Christina Underhill, and Library and Cultural Arts Manager, Mark Mullis.
All right, great. Are there any questions on the minutes? I haven't seen the minutes yet, so.
I'm looking at them now.
Simple enough.
They all look in order to me. I move to approve.
A second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. Minutes approved. So apparently we're doing an election today. Okay. Who wants to be chair? And vice chair.
I have a suggestion for someone I think would be a good chair. it's not like I've asked her or anything. I would like to see Amy Wilson come in. And I say that because, I've been on the board for about 5 years. And in my opinion, we're at the strongest board we've had for ages because of all the new ideas that are coming in. And I would like to see one of the newer folks that brings a lot of ideas, and Amy came to mind right away if she would be willing.
How long are you, how often do we do the elections?
Every year.
Once a year.
Oh, really? Gosh, it feels like we just did them, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think
doesn't
it was
it?
at our last in-person meeting.
That's so weird.
Yeah, I remember that. It was
Yeah.
March. I was in the
That
library
week.
today for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind doing it.
Okay.
I just re-signed up for another 2 years, so I'm here for a minute.
Well, it's perfect.
And vice chair? Or does anyone else want, how does this, is there a procedure for this? I don't know. Any other nominations for chair? Okay. Any nominations for vice chair?
I mean, Maria or Sarah have been on here quite a while.
I'm happy to hop in. If I'm assuming it's not much work.
I don't think so. All right, I nominate Maria for
Vice chair. Yeah.
I don't know if I can hold up to your
I would
joke,
second
Scott,
that.
but
All right, I guess if any other nominations, otherwise all in favor.
Well, we need a second for
Wait a second.
since Scott,
I'll second.
okay, for the chair. All right, thanks, Sarah.
All in favor?
Aye.
bye.
Any opposed? Okay, congratulations. You are now the chair and vice chair, Amy and Marie.
Starting at the next meeting or at this one?
This one.
This one?
Oh, good, I'm done. Okay.
Well, you better tell me what to do. I don't remember. I know how to adjourn it, I think. But thank you, Guy and Scott, for being the chair and vice chair for all these years. For that, like, it's been a long time.
Wow.
Oh,
You guys
thanks.
did a great job.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I think so. You just have to go through the agenda, and you have public comment, reports, new business, old business, and your choices.
And then I approve the agenda like the week before, right?
Yep.
All right. I think I can handle that.
All right.
Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is, wait, can you scroll up? I missed it. I'm trying to find the agenda. I can only find the minutes from last meeting.
Public comment, we do not have anybody present.
Okay. So are we up to reports then? Reports are next.
We are.
Okay. Cool. So February was our first full month of being reopened, obviously with limited hours, limited capacity. So what you'll see that will differ from previous months pretty significantly will be the physical visitors number. We're back up to a meaningful percentage of what we used to get, in the 10% range or so, a little better than that, I guess. But it's significantly higher than what we saw in January. I think in January we had about 900 visitors. Obviously that was just being the handful of days that we were open, combined with our curbside pickups. And then in February we're at the 2,300 number. That's combining people who are coming into the library as well as curbside pickups. Curbside pickup numbers have trended down really significantly over the last few weeks, as more and more people are choosing to actually come back into the library to get their holds. And so we're kind of looking at, obviously we're not going to be dropping curbside anytime soon, but we're really skeptical at this point whether that's something that is going to generate enough interest long term to be like a service that we continue going forward. It's definitely something you're hearing talked about in the library world a little bit, about whether curbside pickup is just going to be a thing that libraries will always offer. We'll see. You know, if the demand is still there, we may try to find a way to accommodate that, but it is staff intensive. So like I said, the physical visitors number is up significantly, and I think it will be even more so in March. One thing I did want to call out here is the last month we talked about the total reach Facebook number as being possibly a useful metric for just kind of, you know, gauging social media engagement. I was really shocked when I ran the numbers this month and saw that we were down significantly in that total reach number compared to February 2020. And then that prompted me to want to do a little digging and figure out what were we doing in February 2020 that was getting so much more traction. And it turns out that that's actually very difficult to figure out, because Facebook is not a very useful archive of what you were doing at any given. It's hard to pull like a snapshot of, like, show me what was going on this page at this point in time. If anybody is aware of a way to do that, I would love to hear it. I have asked, you know, I did some research myself. I've asked around. I have not found a good way to do that other than to just scroll continuously until you go back in time. So question to the group, does anybody have any advice on how you might pull off something like that?
You can download your entire history and look at it in that way, I think. But
interesting. Well, do you think I'll play with it. Does it show you like your likes, reshare, or shares, anything like that? Or does it just show you what you posted?
I think I know it shows everything you posted. I downloaded mine once.
Okay, that's a good thought. Maybe I'll give that a try.
I don't know if that works for a page or a group though.
Yeah,
you can look into it.
Mark, do you know if you were placing any ads at that time? Because I know you've periodically done ads.
Yeah, we were not. So that
it was like an initial response to the onset of like the pandemic policies.
I was not with the library at that point.
Okay.
So yeah, I've asked to try to, and that was something that as I was asking some of the staff who were present at the time, just, you know, there was some speculation of maybe people were starting to do some research about the pandemic. But my memory of February 2020 is that some people were really starting to think the pandemic was going to be a big deal, but it wasn't until March that kind of became a mainstream sort of consensus. So
great. I have another question. I wonder if it would be too much trouble, or if it would even be worth the trouble to add to 2019 in as well as a third year.
Just for that one statistic.
Yeah, to compare to like a more normative year, just to see like where we're at between. I think it's weird to compare to 2020 because it's such an outlier, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like comparing, like, continuing all last year, we were saying the same thing. Like, well, these are weird numbers. It's a weird year. So yeah, that's something to that.
I think that's a really good idea
just for Facebook.
I think that's a good idea for a lot of these as we're like returning to more normal, just to see how we move, because 2020 like really doesn't count in so many ways for these statistics. So I think that if it's easy enough to pull for all of them, most of them, I mean, some of these things you weren't necessarily like, we weren't tracking in 2019, so that I don't think that maybe all of that is worth the effort. But
I think most of the things that we weren't tracking in 2019, I mean, really, when I'm pulling these numbers, a lot of it is going to like a specific website, kind of just setting the dates field, setting what I'm asking for, and grabbing those numbers. So if that's something that you're all interested in, actually, it's a fair point. Yeah, there might be value there.
I think also you can see a trend a little bit over 3 years than you can over just 1-to-1. Like,
You know, on my personal Facebook page, I found this really convoluted route to history that you could break down by month and by different types of things. I remember you go to the caret at the right and click on something, and I would do it now, but then I would spend the next like 5 hours doing nothing, right?
I found documentation to that effect, and Facebook has, and it's one of those things where it's like, company like Facebook does so much constant A/B testing that you're never really sure that the Facebook you're looking at is the same Facebook that the next person's looking at. And so like
Yeah,
you'll find
true,
I found
true.
like advice online basically calling for, a process like click the carrot and in the drop down menu to select this and that. And it was like, well, that's not there anymore. Like, Facebook has changed since this has been published. So but maybe it point was just that number was anomalous to me. It just, I couldn't understand why we were seeing so much less engagement in 2021 versus 2020 when, because I was kind of prepping the numbers, as I was looking at this total reach and seeing like, okay, this looks like a number that's been fairly consistent year to year. So anyway, it's just something that
They did change the organic reach.
that, Christina seems to have her hand raised. So I'm gonna stop talking for a second here.
Yeah, and you might be saying the same thing I'm going to say, but yeah, Facebook's changed a little bit. We're noticing on the business pages, so like the government sections, they're not getting viewed as much. We'll do a post and you don't see it. Like I don't see it on my personal page. And we're hearing complaints from other government organizations, kind of the same thing. Even when you boost a post, it doesn't always get boosted to who you're targeting. And so there's a little controversy with Facebook and advertising. It's one of many ways to reach our patrons, but it's challenging. It's probably get more challenging as the years go on as well.
Yeah, I think to follow up on that, in 2020, I think it was May, I may be completely wrong on May or June, but they changed how they do their organic reach to push more people into paid advertisement. So I think everyone saw cratering in 2021, post 2020, whenever they did the switch of organic reach and how they're tracking reach. So that it may not be apples to apples, but I think having 3 years is definitely better than 2. But I wouldn't be super concerned about total reach. I think it's more about engagement than it is about reach, because I see the library stuff because I like the page and but am I actually stopping and engaging with it versus like scrolling past it and getting a reach? So I think engagements would be something that you may want to just sort of set as an internal metric of what people are clicking on, what are they sharing, what are they commenting on, which is, a bigger lift, but it'll help you sort of determine what people care about in sort of the library sphere. So you're not just creating posts to create posts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pass it along to the people who do the social media. I mean, I barely touch it. It's not my certainly not my area of expertise, and not even particularly my area of interest, if I'm being totally honest. But it's something that if you all would prefer to see the total engagement number, or like see engagement numbers alongside those reach numbers, that's also something I could pull easily enough. So Andy, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do have to be careful about engagement, because what Facebook, it calls it a net negative audience engagement. So it actually downgrades your post if you don't, your whole page post, if you don't get engagements on things. So I think it would be helpful so you don't get a net negative engagement score. I'll shoot you, Mark, an email of just sort of how the guide that I use or that I've used in the past, just so you can see it and pass it along. But
I'll take a look at it and also send it along to the people who internally do more of this work than I do.
And we've seen it at the Denver clerk's office too. Like, posts that used to reach 5,000 people now reach 500, and we're like, what is happening? These little things. So we're seeing it across the government. Well,
thank you for that. That's really this is all really helpful for me. So okay.
I would suggest something on Facebook, as long as we're on the topic. A lot of my friends who have business presences or media presences or anything that might draw anger in these angry times, a lot of people have disabled and removed the review function from their pages, because it's so easy to get into some stampede where people post really toxic things. And in fact, this is something I brought up a few years ago in a meeting. In fact, there's a truly vile exchange between two people that's lodged permanently in our reviews unless we find a way to remove them. And I would say, I mean, the value of the occasional review to a library is probably pretty slim. And the risk of, especially if we happen to become higher profile, if some organized you know, group decides they have it in for the library, which happens, we, you know, it could really go off the rails. And so I would just suggest we consider disabling and removing the review function.
I just
If
did a
everybody
quick
gets out
peek,
of this,
and there's no really bad review at all that I see, Scott.
well,
So,
you go back to like 2015.
the last one is 5 years ago, the like last one on the page, and they are all positive. So
I definitely remember
maybe
some
it was
pretty,
taken down.
yeah, I definitely remember some pretty ugly reviews back a couple years back on the.
Oh, there was one exchange. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah, on the
Yeah.
Google reviews was where they were. Really
No,
taking
I'm
it.
talking about the Facebook reviews.
Really? Yeah.
It was two women, I forget, like Barisa and Tallulah or something like that. And they, yeah, I know. I suspect they're not real names, but it got pretty.
Oh, I see the one you're talking about. There are no comments
Yeah.
on it, so
Right, no comment. The you know, it's not something I would want my, you know, if I had kids of age, I wouldn't want them reading that particular exchange that gets into some pretty grimy territory.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't know. I know that gosh, to some degree there has been discussion with the and Christina, maybe you'll know a little bit more about this, city attorney like giving us guidance on like not being able to, you know, it was with social media, not being able to remove some comments because it was like a concern about free speech violations, that sort of thing. So I don't know if disabling, removing reviews is really an option. It's something we can, you know, we'd have to get some legal guidance about the, you know, the legality and ethics of doing that. So, but it's interesting. I mean, yeah, it's always tricky when you're, you know, creating a space that people can say whatever is on their mind.
Yeah.
You know, Mark, you were talking about the difficulties in being able to go back in through your Facebook history. It might be worth it, just as a suggestion to the team that's managing the social media. If they have a very successful post or something that's really has a lot of engagement, you can copy the link to it or something like that and keep like a running list of like really impactful posts. And then, you know, periodically check it out, maybe see what it is that's working and versus not working. Just to kind of keep, you can embed them too. Like if you don't embed the whole feed on the website, you can embed individual posts and things like that. It just is nice to have a collection of like the more successful posts. Some of them will get like tens of thousands of likes or something. Like that would be interesting to pull aside and have access to outside of Facebook.
If we ever go viral, I promise we'll make a note of it. But no, it is in general like our more successful stuff. I know that's something that Jordan, Michelle, and Corinne and the people who do this stuff are watching. So yeah, but I don't know exactly how they're tracking that or like, you know, making it, you know, drawing lessons from it. So yeah, that's a good thought. Cool. All right. So moving through meeting room sessions, you know, we're starting to have some groups internally for the city use the meeting rooms again. So that's what you're seeing there. They're not yet available to the public. We do have one group who was using our meeting room, the South Englewood Sanitation District, which you've probably seen or you've heard me mention before. Our circulation statistics kind of tracking where we've been. We're about a third of our normal physical circulation. That's coming up still, and of course, and I think that, you know, being open, having people back in the library doing checkouts, going to, you know, really have an impact on that. The digital stuff is still doing really well. And in particular, I noticed that the canopy number was a big jump this month, and we did promote that in a couple of different places. So it was really good to see that get some traction. Overdrive is continuing to do really well, but those numbers are also reflecting that the magazines that used to be Zinio, and then after that it was RB Digital, that's now been folded into Libby/Overdrive. So that's part of why we're seeing a nice little boost to those numbers. The Hoopla, growth in usage is pretty much just, I think, just what we're going to continue to see is just that these are increasingly popular over time. Going down to information services, our questions answered. We're just keeping track of that. It's just reflecting that we don't have as many people as we normally do, but we're definitely helping out the people who are coming to the library, and sometimes with some pretty in-depth questions, which feels good. That's the stuff we missed. We had a couple of great ones this last month. One in particular that jumped out was a patron who wanted us to research the source of where Hampton Avenue got its name. And then she wanted us to physically mail her the answer. She had to leave. And so we did the research and we found the answer. And and the best part for us was that she'd asked the same question from DPL, Denver Public Library, didn't like the answer she got. And turns out they did not provide the right answer. So we were very proud of that one. So this is a random
That's
anecdote.
the kind of thing I feel like you should post on the Facebook.
I don't think we want to be taking fights.
I think people would want it. I want to know.
Not unless
I would
we
just
know
put
them
a plug in
personally. Then it's a friendly rivalry.
Not that part. Just like
oh yeah, some of those fun stories of the kind of questions we answer. Yeah. If we could get permission, that would be cool. I wouldn't want to do it without the patron's permission. Internet computer usage, we're seeing still, it's coming up as more and more people use the library. They're pretty busy each day. We're not always at capacity, which is good. We're not having to turn too many people away from using the public computers, but they're more often than not, they're mostly full. Let's see, volunteer hours is our ELL tutors. Programs are mostly still virtual for this period in time. For February, next month, you'll start to see some numbers that reflect a return to limited in-person programming. And we'll kind of talk about that in a little bit here when I show you the website. So that is, programming numbers, nothing that really jumps out. Any questions about any of that?
How did Hampton get its name?
It was the mayor of Littleton, actually, which was part of what was, and it was Hampton Shepherd was the name of the mayor, and so there's also a Shepherd Street or a Shepherd Avenue, I can't remember which, and so it's just the first name of the mayor of Littleton from back sometime in the late 19th, early 20th century.
Nice.
Denver was making some cockamamie argument that it was all about that there's Harvard and there's Yale and then there's some other college that's in that's in a place called Hampton, and we were just like, that doesn't work out. You don't think Harvard, Yale, Hampton? That doesn't make any sense.
Oh yeah, Hampton, Sydney, in Virginia. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah. So restoring library services, big thing this month has been trying to train up our new people. We've had a lot of staff turnover during the pandemic here. There's just a lot of small things that come up day to day that we haven't really had reason to train people on. And so that was a big focus this last month. And then trying to make sure that we're maintaining, like say here, best practice around security and safety, figuring out things like traffic flow in the circulation area, all that stuff. And it's been, I'd say it's felt successful. Our feedback from patrons has been really positive, and staff are feeling more and more confident as the weeks go on. I mentioned that next step is restore limited in-person programming in March. We've already started that last Friday with the story times in the community room. Was the first in-person program inside the building since, well, last summer we were doing some stuff outside, but now we're back in the building at least. using the community room on the second floor because it's much larger than any of our meeting rooms, and so it's the safest space that we have available. The other thing that's going to happen in March is our plan is on March 22nd also. We're going to add, so right now we're doing 12 to 2 p.m., 3 to 5 p.m. is these sorts of windows of time when we're open. And then we're going to add 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. as well. When we do that, that will be our opportunity to move our staff back to our normal staffing hours. And then that, the most important thing is from the patient's perspective, anybody who, has to do a 9 to 5 sort of workday right now, there's no hours that we're offering that work for them except the weekend. But we'll add that 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. window so they can come in and use the library after work. And that will be, like I said, it'll get us back to our normal staffing hours, which will get some of our new staff used to the way the evenings work, where we have fewer staff on site. Right now, they're kind of used to the whole team being there all at the same time. And this will be, probably the last big step as we transition back to restoring our normal hours. The periodic closures through the day have served the dual purpose, allowing us to clean, also allowing us to maintain the, manage the capacity of the library, kind of discourage people from spending the whole day there. They're welcome back in after that time, of course, but just a way to kind of keep the numbers down and keep in, especially with having limited seating and tables and that sort of thing, freeing those up for different users. So as public health guidance continues to ease and as more and more people get vaccinated, we'll be able to, hopefully before too long, restore the normal operating hours. But that addition of the 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. window is the thing that's coming in March.
I got a wrench to throw in your argument there about Hamden.
Don't do this to me. No, what's up?
I just remembered I have this book here, The Origin of Denver Street Names, and it has Hamden, John Hamden, noted Englishman. He was a figure of
fascinating
pre-American Revolutionary War.
All right, well, I'll take, if this is accurate, I'm gonna take part of the blame here, but I'm also gonna throw littletongov.org under the bus because they're the ones. I
don't know if it's true. It's just it's a very old document from Denver Public Works that I happen to have.
Yeah, we found the answer on Littleton's, city website. So that's great. Now this is a guy you may have opened up just an entirely different can of worms here, because this I'll throw this one to the staff who are doing this research, and I'm sure they're gonna love digging into this. John Hamden, all right. Marketing team. So we had our first time meeting in March. Really, identified that having comprehensive events calendars our greatest need, and I'll show you shortly what we're doing with that. And then just kind of getting coordinated around how do we, when something's going in the email newsletter, when something's going up on social media, and then we have a staff member who is putting together a print brochure each month for our programs and events. And so I was just looking at the prototype of that the other day. I'll show you the events calendar shortly. New City of Englewood website went live on Monday or yesterday. We did a lot of tweaking to the library's website. I wish I could say every page was exactly where I want it to be. Like I said, I'll show you it shortly. But overall, it was a pretty smooth launch. I don't think there were any major errors for the city's part of the website, and nothing too major on our end either. So we're happy about that. We added access to the Wall Street Journal. So that's goes alongside the access we already added for the New York Times. And then we're working now with a company that will give us access to Denver Post and Englewood Herald, full text search, as well as like an image reproduction of each issue day of when it comes out. And so we're going to do, you'll see a push in the next month or so for sort of our newspapers, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Denver Post, Englewood Herald. You'll have access to the whole thing online. The New York Times and the Wall Street Journal ones, I think, are really valuable. I mean, it's something I'm using all the time. The way it works is basically you follow a link through the library's website, and if you already have like an account with Wall Street Journal or with New York Times, by following that link, you can add, for the New York Times, it's 3 days of access, and for the Wall Street Journal, it's 10 days of access, where you get as if you were a paid subscriber. And then at the end of that period of time, you just follow the link again, and it gives you another, and it just extends that time out. So it's really cool if you read any of those papers, or if you find yourself getting paywalled reading those sources online. Definitely recommend bookmarking those bookmarking those links so that you can follow them. And the nice thing is, since it's attached to your account, even if you follow the link through like your web browser on your computer, and then you're reading it on your phone, you have that paid access, or the equivalent of that paid access. So we think that's pretty cool. Just got to make more people aware that we have it.
Is it full access to like everything in the Times and Journal?
It's the equivalent of having like a paid subscription. So whatever you'd get as a subscriber. Yeah.
Are you promoting this online at all?
Right now, we've done some promotion of the New York Times one. We haven't really done with the Wall Street Journal yet, and it's just because I'm waiting. I need to work out a couple extra details to get the Denver Post part of it working, so that we can kind of do like a big promotion for the whole kit and caboodle.
And that's something that people can just keep going back to again and again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll cancel my New York Times subscription then.
Give it a try. I mean, and I would actually be really curious to see how it compares in terms of the sort of user experience to what you're paying for.
I think I saw the post about it. So I think,
Cool.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to have added, or at least clearer for new folks moving in the city, I was just on there. I have no idea how to become a member of the library. Like, or what the process is, or how to, like, there is nothing anywhere on the website that I can find of like how to become a member, or, how to get your card, or any of those processes. And so I think that would be really helpful to encourage expanded use of, I can't find it. So I don't know if it's hidden somewhere, but it should be like front and center of like.
Get a library card.
Yeah.
We used to have, it's funny, it used to be exactly what we said, and then it's kind of got tweaked and shuffled. So, okay, thank you. We can reinstate that easily enough. And I'll poke around and see what I can do. So, okay, so services for patrons experiencing homelessness and economic need. We did launch a little free pantry. If you visit the library, you'll find it near the north side entrance, stocked full of food. Mostly, it's a mix of stuff that's sort of grab and go, as well as stuff that's more like the kind of ingredients you take home and make a meal out of. We also got hygiene kits. That's what I'm looking for. We're working with Englewood Rec Center to try to figure out how we might do shower passes, so people could go to the rec center and take a shower. We are also, I mentioned in January that we got some cold weather, the blankets, tarps, sleeping bags, that sort of thing. Really trying to put some of these things are going to be put out on the library floor. Some of them are already out on the library floor, and some of them are things that we think we'll probably hold because they're harder to acquire. And then we'll distribute as the need arises, but we don't necessarily want them, available to just for somebody to grab and take. We're talking with Cafe 180, which is a nonprofit in the area, and they were approached by students from St. Mary's Academy who were looking for a place to put a community fridge. Cafe 180 thought of us, so they reached out, and we are meeting on Friday with the City of Englewood's homelessness action team to talk about whether that's something that would be appropriate to have at the Civic Center, and whether the library would be the best place for that. But it's something that may come as and complement the little free pantry that we have.
Amazing.
Have you heard any concerns from members, especially parents with small kids, with increased use of homeless services? Like, I support this, but I could see it being a deterrent from especially families with young kids if we're seeing it become overused and sort of an attractant per se. Have you, when I saw it, I was like, this doesn't seem like a great use of library space personally, especially with the number of other resources. But have you heard anything from folks of this being a deterrent from actual use of the library?
We have not.
Okay.
That is something that I'm very curious to hear what the community feedback is, and how much of that community feedback ends up reflecting. This is a really complicated question, and because sometimes you'll get direct feedback, but sometimes also what you'll see is a change in your usage over time based on things that your community is not actually telling you. You just over time see that fewer parents are bringing their kids to the library if they feel like it's an unsafe environment. I think that we want to be supportive of our patrons who are experiencing homelessness or people who are experiencing economic need. But I'm also very aware that if you walk in the library and the first thing you see is somebody who's, sleeping / unconscious, at the chair in the entryway, and they've got piles of stuff all around them, and it's just that, like, that's the image that kind of repeats as you walk through the library. It creates an uncomfortable environment, and it might be an unwelcoming place for everyone, for other people in the community. So we're trying to figure out a way to strike this balance appropriately. So we're talking, right now this is, the pantry is located near the north side entrance. I'm not sure, it's on a cart. I'm not sure if that's going to be its permanent home. We haven't determined, whether what the best long-term spot for that in the library is. We are talking about trying to shift some of the, we had some seating near the entrance to the library in highly visible spots that was drawing a lot of stuff that maybe like I was describing just didn't feel as welcoming. Welcoming is not the right word. I'm trying to be delicate now. So just things that sent an image that might make certain people uncomfortable. We're trying to be conscious of the fact that there are different people coming to the library for very different reasons, and that sometimes it's necessary that people sharing a library space are comfortable coexisting, but also sometimes that being able to separate out the children's area physically and the area that the parts of the library that families are using from the parts of the library that other people are using, it really can kind of help the library be a space that meets the needs of a lot of different people in your community. One thing we did kind of on that front was to move the young adult section over to the side of the library that has the children's area. That was a change we think kind of supports that. We're in the process of getting some shelving removed from the sort of far back corner of the library where the biographies and previously the audiobooks were housed, that sort of thing. And we're going to try to move some of the seating over there. It's one of our least visible spots in the library. It's a part that I think that people who are looking just for a quiet place to be will feel safe, will feel unharassed, and also will not be making anybody else feel uncomfortable. So I think that there's wins that are possible when it comes to that sort of thing. But very curious to see, if this is something that generates conflict or generates concern from the community. It's something that we're going to listen to really closely. Sarah,
yeah.
Oh, I guess I agree that it's a complicated issue. I guess my concern would be, do you feel like by offering more services that you'd be drawing in more of a crowd via the light rail? And I would say, like, as a parent, my concerns are more for what's going on outside of the library rather than inside. I always have felt comfortable in the children's area, but I think that's great that you have a children's area and a separate area for teens. I can say that I have not always felt super comfortable just going in by myself as a woman into the corners of the library to look for books for myself. So I just think it is really complicated. So I think it's definitely something to really think think about.
Yeah, and so much of where that discomfort can arise is if the library is being used for any sort of illegal activity. That's something that we are very, very concerned about. One of the things we did in the last year was to install a much more comprehensive security camera layout in the library so that we have visibility into all the different corners of the library. Gosh, I had another related point, but no, I really appreciate that because I think that sense of safety is so important. We're still in the process of getting the key card readers installed in the bathrooms because we know that there are certain times of day where the bathrooms were kind of being used for various things that are illegal and we don't want the bathrooms to be used for. So trying to really find a way to meet the genuine needs of some of our users, but also at the same time improve the safety of the library. These are the balances we're trying to strike.
That's like, I guess what I mean by the outside, I'm not sure what the security is for the outside, but I can tell you I've sat in front of that big window with my kids and watched people chug booze, smoke pot. Like, it's very out in the open right out there. And I think that can make people, I just wonder if you're drawing in people who are not already your current users by offering additional services. There are a lot of services in Inglewood, but I just wonder with the light rail being right there, if you're going to end up drawing in more people who are not already your patrons. Like just, hey, we can get food there. We can go for lunch at Cafe 180. Can go, like, I know it's complicated. I'm not trying to be heartless about it or anything, but it's extremely complicated. And I know there's a pantry box on Broadway in front of, I can't think of what church it is. It's across from 4G's.
Oh,
And I know
It
they
just
have a
changed the
lot of
Wellspring.
vandalism there, a lot. I don't know why. So.
Mhm.
actually, I think Wellspring recently moved out. That's like the short-term rental church or something. I think.
Oh, did they move out already?
Yeah, yeah, that Wellspring.
It was
moved
the
over.
Methodist church.
Yeah,
It was
I
the
know.
Methodist church. Now it's Wellspring.
I think Wellspring just recently left. I think they're
Oh,
over
yeah,
on
yeah.
like
That's
Lincoln.
I go
now.
there. I go there.
Oh, okay.
They just moved there. We swapped with the church that was in there.
Oh, okay. I guess I had the swap backward then.
Yeah, they took
Yeah.
our old building on Lincoln and by
Oh,
where
okay.
the Starbucks is.
So Wellspring was on Lincoln. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if like maybe the library could be like the support, like this, obviously this is a trial period and can be tested, but I wonder if like the library can support it in a more safe location for the patrons and for everyone else. Yeah,
I think that's a great
I think
idea.
time testing will be necessary though.
I would like to say, look, I really like what Andy and Marie and Sarah had to say, and it's tough. It's the kind of thing where you're always about 1 inch away
Mhm.
from sounding heartless. But I mean, when my kids were little, we lived in Denver at first, right? And I used to take my sons to the Central Library downtown a lot back in the 90s, and we have fabulous memories of it, and it turned them both into big readers, and it was fabulous. But to me, over the past few years, Denver Central Library fell into a really bad mission creep where it became essentially a day shelter. And if I had a 4 and 6 year old kids now and live there, I wouldn't be taking them to the Central Library. And I'm concerned that I think we need to think about what our mission is and be very cautious about expanding that mission out of good intentions. And I like what Marie said about maybe supporting another location. And I know this is tough stuff, that you don't want to sound like some heartless heel, but we also want people who live in Englewood and love Englewood and care about Englewood to feel comfortable coming. And it's concerning to me.
Yeah. Well, and I just to add, like, I'm not coming in person yet. And so I read this and I'm like, oh, this is amazing, like theoretically, but I'm also not bringing my children into the library. So I think that it is going to have to serve a trial period as more people come in, as more people find out about it, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm. So yeah, I would just like to be cautious that we stick to our mission and not lose our mission in the interest of doing something that we're not really all that well suited to do, and lose our patronage in the process.
Do you think, like, given the location of the library, like, I definitely support having like some type of outreach or services for them, just because, again, like, of purely location, but I agree with what everybody else has said of just being cautious. And I haven't been into the library in a while, but yeah, I think location is a big factor for services for the homeless, but also, you know, yeah, what's the mission, the ultimate mission of the library?
I like
Yeah, it's
what
funny. I mean,
oh, sorry.
no, go on.
I
What?
just like what Marie said about using it as a resource. Like, you can go to the library and say, hey, did you know that you can go over to Cafe 180 and have a meal? Did you know that there's a pantry box over there? And maybe helping to organize, helping, I can't think of who the name of the person who is in charge of the pantry box, but maybe
Childs.
helping get it. Yeah, the Citizen of the Year.
Yeah.
It would be great to like help with the services that already exist, because the library is a resource center. It's a community. I mean, it's community too. And so just being a place that can let people know where there are services available. I think hygiene kits are great, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think there needs to be some balance with it.
Yeah. I think just one more thing to add, which is that, like, I think a lot of the fridges and things that I've seen that are in Denver are accessible 24 hours. They're all outdoors. And so that kind of makes me wonder whether the library one would actually see the use that it needs in the time of need too.
That's a good point.
Yeah, this is all really great feedback from all of you. And, you know, like Mart said, this is a work in progress, and it's going to go on for quite a while. And so we can treat, you know, the pantry and the refrigerator as a pilot and see how it goes. And it's a little tough to judge right now, because you're right, a lot of people aren't coming to the library just yet because of COVID. So time will tell. But there's a lot of work going on in the Tri-Cities area with homeless initiatives, and the library is one little piece of the puzzle. And the library obviously sees a lot of homeless individuals come through the doors for services or just relief from weather or whatever it may be. And so, you know, it is a very, we have to be very careful with this one. There's some legal issues too that Mark and I in the near future will be discussing with our legal team on what can the library do and what can we not do. We might not be able to turn people away no matter how uncomfortable it may be. There's a lot of bridges we've got to cross, and new legislation and other things have come about. There's new court cases that were recently decided upon that have impact on our library. And so this is a tough issue. There's no right answer to it. It's probably time and getting the right resources in place, but we'll treat this as a pilot. We'll see. Again, we meet Friday with the internal working group for homelessness, and we'll mention your concerns as well. And PD is part of that, and others that are very involved in dealing with homeless individuals are at that meeting. So they might have some other resources or ideas as well to ease some of your concerns. So we'll keep updating you as we learn more information and keep this going. But Yeah, I appreciate all the feedback. It's good to hear. Scott?
Let me ask, I mean, you're an expert at this point. What does it cost to do an actual vetted valid Polko survey?
You don't want to know. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's thousands of dollars to do these surveys.
Oh.
So there are some free things we can do. You know, we could do a survey like SurveyMonkey or whatever to get feedback from our patrons that are using the library. So there's other types of surveys we can do. They won't be like statistically valid type surveys, but at least it would give somebody who is too afraid to speak up in person or send an email or whatever a chance just to give a quick response, like I don't agree or I agree, I love it, whatever it may be. So we could go down that path as this program is developed.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. The idea of using it to solicit ideas and feedback. I'm a nut for statistics, and so every time I hear not statistically valid, I have an allergic reaction. but as a way to just draw written feedback, I think that could be interesting.
Yeah. Okay. We'll keep that in mind too. Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Thanks, everyone. It's really good to hear all that, and nothing being said here that we haven't discussed internally. So I hear you loud and clear. All right, local history. Yeah, the American Digital Memories completed the digitization of the recorded oral histories, and we have not yet received those, but we will be adding those to the website in March. That's the only thing that's been finished this last month on the local history front. I know we've got the photo archive. There's a lot of metadata tagging and categorization and stuff. A lot of that work is continuing, and then we're trying to get access to the Preservation Society, get them back in the room. So we were just talking to one of their members the other day. So still trying to support local history.
What are they?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I can't see anybody. That's the problem. I can see like 3 people.
I think we might be about to ask the same question. Just wondering, I remember when we went in their room and checked out the stuff that the Inglewood Historical Preservation Society stores in there. I'm just wondering if they're planning on doing any display with their stuff.
I can't speak to their plans. They do. There is one display case in the library that they do a rotating display in, but it hasn't been updated in a while. And I don't know. I don't know if that's. Again, I just can't speak to their plans.
You know, I would follow up on Sarah's question. I mean, because when we were in there, it was like a pole barn. I mean, it was just stuff scattered around and piled up and stuff. And like when the library is talking about like a maker space or a podcast studio and different things, I mean, I have to wonder, like, don't they have some space out at the service center if all it's going to be is your basic pile of unsorted storage?
There are some storage spaces in the library I would love to have, but I want to respect the partnership there. So.
I don't know. It seems awfully generous and not really part of the library's mission. I mean, it is. When we were in there, I was pretty shocked that it's just piled up stuff,
I unfortunately have to hop off. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to screw up quorum or anything if I leave. I think we're good.
Yeah,
okay.
We're fine, Andy. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize. I have to hard stop at 8 tonight.
Good seeing you,
Andy.
Andy.
Thank you for the.
Thanks,
for the comments.
everybody.
I just wanted to add to Scott's question. Just wondering what the original agreement was with the Inglewood Historical Preservation Society. I kind of had the feeling that it was for them to use to display things, but I could be totally wrong on that. So I'm just wondering what the original agreement was. I love the Historical Preservation Society. They offer so much to the community. But I did think that that was what they're going to be using it for, was for display. And I'm not sure I don't know if that's what the deal was or not.
Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing what the agreement was too, because
I'll have to look into that. I was not privy to that original agreement, and I know that precedes Christina as well. So we'll have to do some review of what if there's documentation of what the terms of that agreement were. I can tell you that I on a personal level have not been too worried about the fact that I haven't heard from them all that much. It's a lot of the people who participate in EHPS are in a more vulnerable population. And so I'm not surprised to see that they haven't been around. They probably are not, in a place to be wanting to come into a public space and build displays right now. So it's something that's not been, and with the library having been closed for most of the last year, it has not really been something that's been of great concern that we don't have, fresh new history displays. But that's something we'll certainly look into and try to better understand with the history of that partnership.
I have a question. Is it with the Historic Society or the Historic Preservation Commission?
It's
I feel like with the Historic Preservation Society, we're like making like a hybrid group. So like which group is it that has the access?
The access, so the Englewood Historic Preservation Society has they have 2 spaces in the library. One is a closet behind the Altenbach room, rather large storage closet back there, and the other is part of one of our staff workrooms, which they use both as a storage and meeting space.
So not the commission.
No.
Okay. Got it. I actually, you know what? I don't have it. I'm sorry. I'm still confused. So we have a Historic Preservation Commission. I know that because I participate with that commission. Is the other group called the Historic Preservation Society or the Historic Society?
HPS.
They're both preservation groups? I didn't know this. Okay, thank you for the clarity.
There's my understanding, I forget the history there, but there was a historic society and then there was a historic preservation society. I think there's a whole saga that I'm sure somebody like Scott could unpack for you.
There's definitely a preservation commission. The HPC is the Historic Preservation Commission. That David Cuesta is the sitting council member on that, and that's that. Yeah. So that's different. The HPC is different from the HPS.
Yes.
An HPS and an HPC. I've always said Inglewoodians love their history. Like Inglewood loves its history. Like 3 historical societies and 2 closets.
Well, there's actually others, but that's a longer story. Not in the library. Okay. This is something that's relevant to an earlier conversation we had about you were talking about the library serving as a information distribution for some of these resources in the area around some of the social services we were talking about. We've ordered a bunch of acrylics and we've drawn up plans for where we're going to convert. We're going to get more organized about having those sort of information resources. So exactly what you all were talking about earlier, and we were just talking to one of our staff members who does murals earlier today, and we may do a mural associated with that inside the library, which I think would be really cool. So working on that.
It would be cool if the mural could be part of the new podcast studio, so that if people didn't want to use like the green screen wall, they could podcast in front of the mural.
That's pretty cool. All right.
Make like a spectacle of it.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get a couple murals out of it.
Like a broadcast tower in there for the theme and wrap it all together.
I love it.
The mural, the historic mural, has to show the Kmart fire from 1972.
There's a story there. Okay.
I would love that. So crazy. And then if people are broadcasting in front of the mural, people would be like, why is the camera?
Why is the camera?
People would so crazy.
What's Kmart?
Great idea, Scott.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah. So children's services, when they're busy at work mostly right now doing prep for summer reading. Kimberly is thinking a lot about what our performers are going to be, what kids stage might look like this year. You know, how we're going to fund everything. Well, one thing she is working on that I thought was kind of cool and I wanted to highlight for this group was that we met with the Parks Department to talk about installing a story walk, which is where you have like a series, like you take a book, you break it into each page, and then you put it on some kind of sign along like a green belt or along like a walking path. And then as people go for a walk, they read the story. Often having it adjacent to like a playground or something really makes sense. So we haven't pinned down the details on that, but we, kind of have established some of the parameters and we think we know how to fund it. So it's something that we're hoping to do sometime this year, depending on what works for the Parks Department. So hopefully more to report on that in the future.
About that, that's a really great idea. And it would be interesting if there was a way to integrate it a little bit with the digital sphere by having the story path mapped out, maybe somehow like on Google. There's like a way sometimes to add ping information on Google Maps or something like that. And then you could post that stuff on social media and just sort of integrate digital with it. Might be like a cool idea.
Cool. Yeah. See where it lands, and that's something we'll keep in our back pocket for sure.
Kind of like a geocache or something like that.
Yeah. I think it would be we're envisioning something where you can always see the next one, but I definitely understand what you're suggesting there. So. Okay, I'll try to be quick because I know we're running late. Or not late, but well, I guess we're a little over. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen here. That's the one. Okay, so if you haven't had a chance to see it yet, can you all see the front page of the New City website?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, New City website, similar in layout to the old one, but sort of a facelift. We've got some video integration down here, sort of the citywide events calendar here, spotlight of news stories, etc. So I wanted to focus here, of course, on the library's subpage. Jump you there now. This is the library subsite. This is similar in terms of the overall layout. You have a left-hand nav bar and you have sort of information, content area off to the right, to what you saw previously. Before I give you I don't want to dig into too much here, but I do want to show real quick. I'm going to go to Broken T Golf's website. This is what we'll call a microsite. The developer worked with us to build this. It's, as you can see, this is really similar structurally to the front page of the city's website, but the icons have been made golf specific, and the top nav bar is all specific to golf. And so this is something that we are talking about doing, and we were planning to do, and that we are planning to do later this year for the library. What I'm showing you is kind of the intermediary step. I think I'll be curious to see if it's possible to make the colors, such that there's a more distinct visual branding, so that there's not any sort of confusion between what the main site is and what the microsite is. But for the library's site, this is our landing page. We have these buttons here to try to get you to the things that are going to be the most frequently sought. Search the catalog, of course, is the big one. We do have this is a widget that is built by the developer, the CMS, for our Facebook. Anytime somebody posts to Facebook, it gets added to the widget. It's not as elegant. It's not the most elegant Facebook widget I've ever seen. It's functional. It does do a couple of quirky things, like every post is named Englewood Public Library because that's who's posting it. And then for some reason, when we share an event, it does this NA. So because of that, I'm not sure I love it. I like the idea of having content that's new that's always populating to the page, but I just wish I had more control over the way that widget look and feel. I have almost no control at all. It's either on the page or it's not, and what it does is just what it does. But that said, there's some things I really like here. I think these buttons work really well. I'll show you the newspapers and magazine page. This is the one that's coming where we have the New York Times, Wall Street Journal. I haven't updated these icons yet. On streaming and downloads, I have, so you can pop over and see our streaming downloads pages. Some of the pages will be similar to the way they were before. This is just rolling over from the news site. So, for example, the historic archive page, this is pretty similar to what you saw before. The thing I really wanted to draw your attention to here would be the couple things about the library page. I just tried to make the policies easier to find, specifically around our patriotic conduct, about our circulation policy, and then the collection policy, the collection development policy is something that, especially given the way libraries have been kind of a hot topic the last couple of days, something we want to make sure is easily accessible. The events calendar, though, is the thing I wanted to highlight here. This is probably the biggest change, is that we now have a unified events calendar. It's populated through March. We're still prototyping it a little bit. This came together pretty late because our hope was to use the events calendar that was built into the CMS, but unfortunately that just was really limited. It didn't allow us to filter by intended audience. It didn't allow us to filter by program type or anything like that. And some of the workflow for creating events was really slow. And so as we realized that wasn't going to be something that worked well for us, we looked at another product called LibCal, which is what we're seeing here. And this one very much meets those needs. It allows us to filter by categories. So far, like I said, this came together very recently. So I've got a couple of categories here, and since we're doing limited programs still, we don't have some of the categories you'd normally see, like our computer classes. They're just not on offer yet. It does allow us to filter by the audience. And of course, so we can see just our teen programs, that sort of thing. Allows you to filter by whether the upcoming program is on-site or online. And for each of the programs, of course, we can click on it and bring up a detailed view of everything you might want to know about that. This default view that we've selected is sort of the month view. We can also choose between the card view, a day list view, a weekly view, which I think is less helpful than the monthly view. So this is something that I think is going to work really well for us. It's something that I don't understand. I mean, frankly, this is something the library very much needed. We've been relying on Facebook to kind of be our events calendar, which works. But I think that this is something that will have a lot of value, and I think will really support our efforts to increase programming going forward. This tool also gives us the opportunity. I don't have it set up for any of these because the vast majority of our programs don't require registration, but we can do registration through this calendar system. And of course, because of that, we can do some statistics tracking as well, attendance tracking. So that is the very quick, trying to respect your time overview of the library website. Do you have any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Mark, I have two thoughts on the website. One is,
Please.
It would be really nice if the library could get a big button on the homepage of the city site, like some of the other organizations do. It looks like, I feel like the library is as significant a part of the city as some of those other organizations. Is there any way to appeal for that?
Right, like you mean like one of these here?
Exactly. Yeah.
These were set, this was determined by our communications department, and I'm not exactly sure what criteria they use to determine. I assume it has to do with just what they, in their analysis, determine where it was either most heavily used or was most important. So
it would be nice if you could put in a request for it, just to see if maybe they just didn't think of it.
Even if there's not a button, I feel like library is really, it was hard for me to see on first glance on
Yeah.
the broken T,
I
like
agree.
it blends in.
Yeah.
much.
And it's grouped too with like golf and parks and recreation. I think
Yeah.
the library really does deserve, with everything that you're doing, I think the library deserves like a standalone button versus like having to dig deep into the menu. And then the other thing I want to say is I agree with you 100%. The Facebook feed is really underwhelming. The calendar is spectacular. Maybe just embed like the calendar card view on the front page. I would move the calendar up to the very front page so that like if you go to the library, you immediately see like what's happening next, what you can sign up for, like what activities happening.
I agree.
I'm not sure that's going to be something I can do with the CMS. As we do microsite, as we work with the developers to do a microsite, my hope is we have greater, ability to customize. There's so much I would like to do along those lines, but I'm limited by what the CMS can do.
You might be able to put that the card view of the calendar in like a widget, like in an iframe, just like the Facebook widget is.
Yes, it would. It's something that I would very much like to be able to do. Even something as simple as the search widget that Pica provides is something that I've not been able to get to work correctly in this CMS. But I will continue playing with it because it's very much something that I would like to be able to do. And I think you're absolutely right. That would be very valuable.
I think it looks great, Mark. The website's looking good and that calendar is pretty awesome.
I have a clarifying question about your comparison to like the Broken Tea website and like
Yes.
the icons that you were mentioning. Like, so for the library site, saying like you're wanting it to look similar to that, are you saying that the left-hand panel, those are going to be all of the icons, or what the buttons currently are would be the icons?
No, not necessarily. I mean, we selected what you'll see in the sort of left-hand nav bar based on just what felt readable and usable. But if I had the ability to change, for example, what's up top here, like on the Broken Tea site, you have a different sort of navigational hierarchy, and then you also have these sorts of spotlighted items. We'd definitely rethink the way we're structuring navigation on the website altogether. And so that's something that I wouldn't necessarily expect that to just, I mean, we tried to think about the navigation for the current site, just really based on the sort of limitations of what's available to us currently. So I think that would change significantly if and when we move into having our own microsite.
Okay. I just was thinking like if all of those, things that are on the left panel were made into icons, and like that's going to be a ton.
It would be a jumble. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then I mean there was a point in time in messing with this where I was kind of thinking in that direction. So I thought, okay, let's try to limit the number of nav items on the left-hand menu here to the things that will eventually be your nav items on the microsite, and then you have like sort of a hierarchy. And what that caused was just to have these all on the left-hand side be like expandable menus, and then it just felt like you were just burying information. So I was trying to, given the constraints that we're working with, make the information as accessible as possible.
Yeah, I think so far it looks great compared to the old site.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good thought, though.
Looking at it,
accessible on the left is orienting, like at least it's all there, so like you're not searching everywhere, so I do like that.
I would just like to again echo what Andy said earlier about getting a library card. I just did a quick search, and it comes up with a document PDF, and that's how you get a library card. Yeah, like there is no way.
I'm gonna have to find that. Okay.
And I think that as far as like marketing, the number one way to get people to come to our library is to make it easy for them to get a card and use it. And I think that getting a card should be one of these icons, like versus the about the library, that should say get a library card.
Yeah, that's great. I was actually that fourth icon there was the kind of the one where I've probably changed that like 3 times in the last couple of days. Like what should go there? But that's a great suggestion. And I have a page, get a library card. a few. I could get. Yeah, I'm not going to dig into the CMS right now, but I'm pretty sure I could. I'm pretty sure I could whip this together in 15 minutes after the meeting because I think I have a page that I just need to get linked correctly to do that. So, yeah.
Hey, would you mind going back to the main, just the main landing page for the city again for a sec?
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I think Helene makes a good point that that it would be nice if the library were out there, and if there's some obscure reason that I don't know as to why this is some fixed number or something, could we add, like, on the recreation center thing, make it like library and recreation centers or something? Just, I agree. I mean, yeah, I mean, down
That's
at
our
the bottom.
department name, right? The department is Parks, Recreation, Library, and Golf.
Yeah, no, I mean at the bottom, the really notable things there. I
the,
can be
the six top icons.
Yeah.
I love that you all think the library is so important. I wish everybody in the
yeah.
No, meeting information feels like it could get buried more so than the library.
I mean, again, I really appreciate.
I think over anything, I would fight for the. I think over anything, I would fight for the placement of the word library when you hover over the Parks, Recreation, Library, and Golf, because that was hard to see. Like, if you're going to fight for anything,
and I think that's something that would be easier to. That's something we might be able to tweak what that is. I suspect I'll have to.
Even if
I may or may not have control over that in the CMS. And one thing I could do to kind of make it a little more obvious would be, so far, I've disabled those left-hand navigation items from having from being listed here. Like, we're under, like, so for example, under rec, it says Citizen Magazine Rec Guide. You know, these items here, I can certainly populate those beneath library, and that might help make it pop out a little bit more.
I think even if you made it say public library, like, just so that word is a little bit longer and would catch the eye a little bit easier. Like, it's really just that it blends into visit, join, events, juniors for me.
Yeah.
So
I hear you. That one, I think I would do personally have control over that. I know I can't mess with any of this down here.
I think that's understandable.
I will certainly let our communications team know that the library board thinks the library deserves more prominent placement on the homepage of the website. I cannot promise I will convince them, but
Well, I can be the emissary for blind old people because my cataracts are really getting bad, and that top line does not jump out to me the way the icons at the bottom do. Just not at all.
Not. Yeah.
I have learning differences, and honestly, like, where it is now is really deeper than I go personally in menus. Like, at that point, I try a different search menu. I don't go very deep personally.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, if it could be added with the rec centers at the bottom, because that could be like the fun icon, because nobody wants to go to a city meeting. You don't want to interact with the police. You don't want to pay your sewer bill, but there's the fun icon, you know, library and rec centers. Right?
I think paying the sewer bill is very fun. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't figure out how to pay it when I first moved here, so I appreciate that icon after all.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I wish it were more than $1.25. I know.
Golf is very much part of recreation. Why can't there be 4 things up there? There's our city government, Parks, Recreation, Library, and Golf. I don't know. I just, it would be nice if library could have its own link from the homepage somewhere, top, bottom, left, right, button, anywhere. So that if you're on the city page, you can go right into the library without having to dig at all.
Again, I will pass that on, but I'll also control what I can control. And try to make this aspect of it more prominent, because that is the one thing I know I can do without, stepping on toes.
Thanks, Mark.
Does the library board not inspire enough fear?
Well, it all depends on the waves you make.
All right, so next up is new business.
I think that was new business.
It was?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a different thing on my agenda here. Okay. How about old business?
I have like a little update. We had talked last time about one of the library's goals to teach critical thinking more to children. And it was really interesting because in one of my classes, it came up actually right after we talked about it. And I thought you'd be interested to know a little bit about what I learned about critical thinking. So this is a cognitive theory of learning class that I'm taking at Johns Hopkins. And basically, you can't teach critical thinking. And so they've done a ton of empirical research. It's really kind of disappointing. One thing the professor says is we haven't empirically designed a test yet that shows that critical thinking is teachable. But the theory of critical thinking, the prevailing theory of critical thinking right now is that it's more an expression of expertise. And so it requires practice and time. So only exposure, practice, and time develops those like neural pathways that we interpret as critical thinking, and it can't just be taught. So I thought that was interesting just to follow up, since it's a goal of yours. I thought I'd give you the rundown on it.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was
and
really interesting.
Yeah, and a couple of people sent me very interesting stuff after that last meeting around it. So thank you all for that. So that's.
I still think, despite that, it's a noble endeavor, and we should expose children to more content that inspires critical thinking. I'm resistant to that information, but it is empirical research, and I wanted to share with the group.
Cool. Huh. Food for thought.
Any other old business? No? All right, staff's choice?
I just have one update, Mark.
Go ahead.
I just want to remind you the extravaganza is going to be happening on March 27th. It's a Saturday from 9 to noon. Tickets are still available. You can get them off our new website under Parks, Recreation, Library, and Golf. You'll find them under Recreation Programs. You can purchase your ticket there. It's $5 per car, so load up your car if you want to come out there. And do it sooner than later because we think we'll sell out. So that's all. Oh, and one other thing, we were notified after this meeting last month that we will not have another furlough day this year. So we had our one and only. We're doing pretty well on the budget and things are looking good. So that's all I've got.
I was going to mention extravaganza as well. That was going to be mine. But the library will be there. So yeah, definitely check that out. I think it's going to be a cool event.
All right, board members' choice. Anyone got anything?
Oh, sorry, I gave my update during staff members. Guys, I'm sorry. Just congratulations to Amy and Marie on your first meeting.
Yeah. Anybody have any vaccine around? I've been spending my time trying to find that. Well, while my wait list at Kaiser it's like a glacier, you know. It's just not moving.
I have a whole pile that I got off eBay. I don't know how trustworthy it is, but you know.
I saw them giving vaccines at King Supers off Littleton. I was picking up a prescription and they were administering vaccines there. They said they just opened.
Oh, the trick is booking one. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah.
I've seen them.
Just get on every list you can. I know.
Yep.
I heard that the Safeway on Logan and Hamden, like they have a physical list, and I think they also have one that I've heard a couple of people get lucky, like going in and like signing up on a physical list, and then just getting lucky.
Oh, interesting.
Back that day.
Oh, well, thanks. I can't say I've been going to stores a whole lot, but that's thank you. That's worth knowing. Yeah.
Scott, real quick, we're going to offer vaccines at Malley at the Malley Center starting on the 25th every Thursday for the senior population. So
that's me
in that category. Reach out to Malley. They'll get some more information probably this week.
Okay, thanks.
That's great.
I just have one thing. Oh,
go ahead.
I reached out. We have a lot of people coming and going in our neighborhood, and I always thought it would be nice if there was some kind of welcome packet that people could bring to new neighbors. So I reached out to the neighborhood resources coordinator, and she said that they're actually going to have one ready by the end of March. And when talking about getting people access to the library cards, I was thinking maybe we could throw some library cards in there so people can just come in and bring them and activate them into the library. We'll give them a reason to come in.
I like that.
Yeah. Who was coordinating that?
Madeline Kin. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine they'll probably have like the calendar. I would be shocked if they didn't have the latest magazine, which has info in the library, but anything else that you want to throw in there, I'm sure.
Some of our informational, like our rat cards and that sort of thing. Yeah. And yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
Jen, do you have anything from the school board we need to hear?
Not really. It's just business as usual. Everybody's in school and we're doing, rounds of quarantines still, that just seems to be the way of the world. But yeah, and that, we have spring break not next week, but the week after. So the week of the 22nd, they're on spring break. And then it's usually a sail down to the end of the year. We're getting close to finishing out this crazy school year. And I think everybody's ready to be done for the summer. And, all the teachers are exhausted and, principals with all the contact tracing and, things like that. It's added another layer of stuff to their job. So, yeah, I think, than that, where we are right now, hopefully going to actually have graduation in person at the stadium at EHS for both high schools, for both Colorado's Finest and Inglewood High School. And so we just got to hope that all the regulations and the rules and, all of that stay good so that we can actually have graduation in person. My son will be one of them. He was supposed to graduate in January and they canceled his January graduation. Finest does two, one in January and one in May. And he was supposed to be in the one in January, but they canceled it because there were only a handful of kids. And stuff was so bad at that point that there wasn't anything to be done. So, we're going to keep our fingers crossed that we can still have an in-person graduation for our kids. But right now that's what it's looking like. So we just got to hope that it doesn't rain or snow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I wanted to mention real quick, Kimberly was really appreciative of the summer reading support that she was able to work out with the schools. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Great.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well, then the meeting is adjourned at 8:31 p.m.
All right. Good seeing everybody.
Thank you again, everyone. You're all
Bye. See
so
you
full of
next
awesome
month.
ideas. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye.
Be safe,
Bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.